they got mad. They never did nothing else.
Yeah, Jesse Jackson's, and Al Sharp, the niggas.
Anyway, so these organizations is being put up as institutions because it's easier to fight an individual with an institution than it is to fight him alone.
Right.
And so they wage war against us individually, and because we don't know it, we end up getting slapped by the invisible man. We gonna fight the nigga closest to us. We get slapped upside the head by the unseen hand. As soon as we turn around, we see somebody that's from the neighboring tribe, and we think he's the bad guy.
Right. Right.
He ain't the unseen hand. He got slapped by him too. That's why he over here looking at you.
Somebody said, will the United States go to war with the Mexican cartel?
That's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. It says, let's see, Nipsey Hussle. Is Nipsey Hussle still alive?
He's in Eritrea. He went back to his people's land to lay low until the storm was over.
What else y'all got, man? It says, how many original tribes are in America currently?
It's thousands of us over here. Tribes is families, extended family structures. And they broke up the families in order to break up our understanding of how to operate from the farm to the city. They wanted to make a disconnect. Every family had a family farm that they turned into a plantation. They turned Big Mama house into the big house. Sweethearts swindled their way in to sell the land because we didn't believe in selling land. It's all in front of us, but we seeing it from where somebody else is telling us to look. But look where they told you not to look, you're going to find more of the right answers than to look where they told you to look. Because when you look where they tell you to look, that's the same as the herding dog herding the sheep in the direction he want them to go.
What else y'all got, man? So raw, and then how long you think paper money got till it goes out? Paper money, because it seemed like to me, how long you think?
We're gonna have some kind of currency that's not a card. That's gonna be the first one. Gonna be an interim currency, right? Once we first start back, and because we got to redesign the currency. So whatever they come out with, we don't know if we're gonna keep it or redesign it yet. All of the states, just about like 40-something states, have already voted to go back to the gold standard. So we got an overwhelming majority that want to go back to the gold standard. Canada has the same QSIP number as America. That means seizing the corporation seized the Canadian corporation as well. When the Canadian corporation was seized, that left Queen Diallo as the commander-in-chief, right? And it took that French puppet, what's his name? I don't remember his name. But it took him, and he became part of the Canadian version of the deep state, right? And then they got a whole bunch of tribal efforts going on across that northern lands they call Canada, that's also pushing for all of the tribes to restore tribal jurisdictional supremacy across the land. By disqualifying the judges, by putting them on notice, the judges and the lawyers, what does that do for all of the cases that judges and lawyers been adjudicating? If we find out they criminals, we find out they foreign agents. Think about that, let that sink in. They don't belong here. and they sending people to prison, but they don't belong here. How do they do that when they don't belong here? Who told us to agree to that? When did we agree to that? Because in the Constitution that we apparently they say we agreed to it, but I don't see Chief Little River name on the Constitution. I don't see Chief Standing Bear. I don't see Chief Yellow Hawk or none of that on the Constitution. So who is these people and what do they have to do with us? And why should we care? If we don't see no tribal leadership's name on this paper and all of the names is European, I mean, it's a European operation. It's not a tribal operation from us. Most of us was written in a law as outlaw tribes, belligerent tribes, non-treaty dependent nations. When they say non-treaty, that means that we the ones they at war with. But we became so comfortable and conditioned in the system because we've learned how to function reasonably well in this system that we forget that it was better before they came than it is today. So the people got to see the absurdity in order to witness the fall of this shenanigans charade.
Somebody said, you think Donald Trump gonna make Canada the 51st state after he offered that
all of the lines of demarcation gonna change.
Say that again, Rod.
All of the lines of demarcation is gonna change. None of the names of none of the states is gonna be the same. The outline, the land, the territory that they map out as that state is not going to be the same state line as it was before. We might go back to territories, right? I'm not sure what the layout going to be because that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I do know that we have to change the names of all the capitals. Yep. We have to change all the lines of demarcation, and we have to change the name of as many cities as possible in our process of reclaiming everything. We can't leave it like they left it.
Hey, if you want to find out what tribe you from, for like 10 different people ask that question.
And they're not treating them the way they need to be treated. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is like, yo, we are different. We have to get treated differently because we are different. We have to, whatever. So, Rod, I want to go historical. I'm not necessarily, because like I said, I don't want to.
Right, I'm with you.
Flag the channel or something like that, but it's just constantly since the time I was born, you always hear about race, black, white. You see Rodney King, you see this. It's when you white, sometimes you could ignore it because you ain't got to go through shit in terms of race-related issues. But when you black, that shit is in your face all the time. You could ignore it and act like you're oblivious to it, or you could accept it and decide whether or not you're gonna triumph over it. Some people don't fall victim to it. Other people, such as myself, says I'm greater than that. I'm literally God incarnate in human form. So not even racism, white supremacy, nothing could stop this train from rolling. So there's different ways to go on about it. But Rod, to go way back, I was talking to what's the brother's name? Q Reeves, and he was talking about the root races. I'm trying to figure out when did all this shit start? How did we even get from spirit to dragon form? Niggas said we was dragons. Then they said we was this. Then we was that. We was green and we was this. That all of a sudden we became brown. Let's talk about the root races a little bit. And I know you told me Madame Blavatsky talked about that. What can you tell me about the root races on planet Earth, Rodriguez?
Okay, I'm gonna give you a good example. You know, you got the sign bushland, right?
Yeah.
And you got the pygmy. These are two of the oldest root races on the planet. They both little people. They both melanated, but they not the same people. Right? And the Khoisan is a couple thousand years older, I think, than the pygmy or the Twa.
Right.
Right? So we talking first and second root race. When we talking root race, this is how they got us separated in the Darwinian evolutionary theory: Homo sapien, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo Cro-Magnon man. All of these different subgroups are different what they call races. Now I got to sidetrack on the race philosophy because the race is the way the war is being fought. The turn everybody against the ones who is the birthright heirs was the intent. The skin color paradigm was used, but the caste system was applied through skin color. When you remember that they wouldn't have let us into any institutions, Dr. Neely Fuller told us 9 areas of people activity, add health, you got 10, right? They used that race dynamic and superiority and inferiority complexes to control people. Most of us don't know that all of those mulattoes from the South married pale faces in the North when they escaped after the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, right? That's what the whole purpose of that movie, Imitation of Life, is, to show you that a lot of us, we went off path and became big celebrities in Hollywood and on Broadway and some of the plays that traveled the world, right? They was passing.
Give me an example. Somebody was passing. Give me an example.
Elvis Presley, John Wayne, Marilyn Monroe, J. Edgar Hoover. I can sit there and do this until I'm blue in the face. And some of the people, they be like, he wasn't passing. They was passing. Elvis' mama was an octoroon.
They could keep Elvis, man. They could keep Elvis around.
Hey, look, I don't care what they do with him.
But his mom was an octoroon.
Yeah. But because we have to remember that this is God's crucible. What do you do in a crucible, Brother Rich?
What?
A crucible. What is it for? Another name for a crucible is the great melding pot. What do you do in a melding pot?
You mix.
Yeah, you mix metals. In this case, platinum group metals in the human family. The different root races is applied as a different platinum group metal. Right? When our skin color was primarily shades of green and blue, magnesium was the controlling element of the biology. Now that iron is, instead of tarnishing green or shades of blue, we rust brown or shades of brown. Or as my man like to say, shades of wheat.
Right.
We are just shades of wheat. But the oldest genetics has been exposed to the most challenges to the genetics, to the immune system. The longer your genetics been here, the more it has a built up collection of things it can defend against, and the more adaptable the genetic strain is. But that don't make you a better or a worse person. It just make you have a different genetic line than somebody else who probably can't fend off what you can fend off. Without going into some of the stuff. So some of the stuff required in allopathic medicine is not required in homeopathic medicine, because you treating from a homeostatic perspective instead of a petro-medical perspective. The petro companies, a lot of the drugs use different stabilizers from fossil fuels, and a lot of the oil reserve goes to medical production, and we don't even know about it. They're extracting parts of the chemical compounds as stabilizers, as lubricants, as to create time-release capsules, all that kind of stuff they use as the petrol fuel. This is what they get their patents on, and this is how they continue to charge you money for your health when they're getting patents on their fossil fuel medications.
Indeed. I want to take it way back, and I mentioned the term root race, and I mentioned Madame Blavatsky, and I always heard, I hear the majority of people on YouTube mention, because we're trying to figure like, who the hell are we, and why do they hate us so much? Why is there a global conspiracy to where it's like a color caste system, where the darker you are, the more it seems you're suppressed all over the world? Like, how the hell they got the entire globe on lockdown in terms of suppressing melanated people? So in an attempt to understand that, I wanted to go way back, and I hear about the Atlanteans, Rod. I hear about the Lemurians, but there's also the Hyperboreans, and there's also the Polarians. So let's talk a little bit about these root races, Rod. I hear you talk about the Atlanteans a lot in Thoth. I hear you talk about Lemuria. What's up with the Polarians, Rod? How far this shit go? What should we know about the Polarians?
That's Polarians, Tartarians, Hyperboreans. That's all Atlantis.
It's all Atlantis.
Just different people telling the story, and they're calling it something different. Right? When you say Tartarian, that means Western orientation of Rome. Barbary or barbarian, that's Eastern orientation of Rome. Right? So when you're talking Hyperborea, you're talking about north of Rome. But you're still using the Roman frame of reference, and that's the origin of skin-based racism was developed and refined in Rome, rolled out of Notre Dame University as a false narrative.
So it started in Rome, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. But the caste scroll, which tells you how to create caste systems, you got to know how to create the caste system in order to make a caste system functional without you. It's the same as they say the Willie Lynch letter. Right? If you read the Willie Lynch letter, they telling you about all of the dynamics of control you can have by using this paradigm of complexes, the inferiority complex, the superiority complex, but they call it to turn the families against each other first, so now they can't get along. So when they go in the streets, they don't know how to get along with the people in the community. Right, so you're creating conditions. You don't have to micromanage people if you can control the conditions that they express themselves in. That's why they always bring up the crabs in the bucket. He's totally out of his nature. He's panicking. That's why he's pulling you back now. Not because he got a innate animosity. He's trying to get free, and he panicking. He don't know where to go because he don't supposed to be in the bucket. He's supposed to be in the vastness of the ocean. Of course he's gonna pull you back down, right? And only intellectualizing being, probably some of the primates and a couple of the dolphins, will figure out, oh, we can't attack each other. They got us in this bucket. But the crab never dawned on him that they can form a crab chain and pull each other out if they knew they was in the bucket. They don't know where they at. They don't know that over the top of the bucket is freedom. They just hoping, like a nigga on the prison yard, hoping that he could be on the other side of the fence.
Right. What would you I had a conversation with a priestess, I said Ra Men yesterday, about the whole 666 thing, and listening to the teachers like Bobby and they always said that is describing the carbon molecule. 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. What is the future of the carbon molecule? They're saying that we're going from carbon based to, and I might have asked you this before, from carbon based to what's that word they use, family?
Crystalline.
It's crystalline based. Is this something, if we're going from carbon to crystalline, are we going back to the future? When were we crystalline before? If we're talking about Atlantis, Lemuria, the Polarians and all that, when was we crystalline beings? At what point in history?
That was during the Atlantis period. That's why crystalline beings and carbon-based beings don't behave the same. Carbon-based beings is more volatile chaos energy. Crystalline is more in line with the, because you got to remember, your DNA is made up of crystal forms of amino acids. crystalline amino acids. That's what make your DNA up. And we was externally focused, which made us skin-based.
Right.
Which was part of the racist doctrine to get you to focus on the skin.
Right.
Crystalline, you more internal based. You looking at everything from the inside out, not the outside in. And now you can see with your spiritual eye, or what they call your crystal eyes, your Ujek and Uraeus, with your higher wisdom and your controlled lower nature. Right? They always tell us about the cobra on the crown, but they never tell us about the vulture. Right? Your lower nature. The vulture is the lower nature that you conquered. And the cobra is your higher nature that you've mastered. It's two different struggles going on in the individual. And W.B. Bush wrote about it. He called it the warring soul.
Right.
Right. The part of the self that want to go along with society at large, and the part of the self that want to truly express itself from its purest source. Right. So you're talking your spiritual self versus your ego self. Your ego is the sum total of everything that you've ever been told about yourself that may or may not be true, but you accepted it as so, because that defined who you was from the external world's perspective. So you're trying to live your life fitting into the perspective of everything you agreed to in your ego, and you haven't even tested it to see if it's compatible with who you are.
Very interesting. Let's go through a couple of historical terms, Rod. We're talking about melanin. We're talking about race. And once again, family, if you're just joining us, there was a Senate hearing with RFK. I advise y'all to go see what's going on. Very interesting things have been happening since Trump has been president. I cannot lie. He's really shaking things up. Some people don't like it. Some people do like it. But things are being shaken up. That's one thing we all could agree on, whether you like it or not like what's going on.
You remember I told you as soon as you take office, everything gonna speed up.
Yeah, you did say that. Indeed. Let's go through a couple of historical terms to try to figure out who we are, where we come from, and how we got here, Rod. Let's talk, and this is a term me and you talk about on the phone. We haven't talked about on the internet, Neanderthals. Now, that was a term, a lot of brothers use that term to insult.
The pale-faced tribes tie up. I guess they mentioned, I think they're talking about the East Coast tribes, Raw, the ones that came with Andrew Jackson mixing with people, the $5 Indians, pretty much.
It's exposed, so the righteous have to use a greater deception than the deceiver. So sometimes the misdirection is confusing.